Ryland staggered across the docking platform, tripping over a coil of anti-grav cable that seemed to have a personal vendetta against him. The bustling Zareth orbital port was alive with chaos. Hovercarts zoomed past in unpredictable trajectories, alien merchants shouted in languages that sounded like musical saws being gently tortured, and somewhere, a sentient drone insisted it was legally obligated to critique every passerby's fashion sense. Rylan, in his ill-fitting, slightly singed spacesuit, waved awkwardly at a passing quartet of levitating insects wearing monocles. "Not today, not today," he muttered, dodging a crate that threatened to convert him into an interstellar pancake. His latest scheme, a half-baked plan to sell a supposedly rare energy crystal, had already gone sideways. The crystal had turned out to be a cheap imitation, but the buyer, a three-headed negotiator named Ziltrax, had promised to overlook that fact if Ryland could entertain them with a decent joke. Which was difficult, considering that most of his jokes required at least one functioning gravity field, 2 coherent puns, and the absence of sentient coffee cups, which, unfortunately, were now multiplying around his feet. As he wrestled a particularly feisty cup that had tried to mug him for a cream refill, a shadow fell across the platform. He looked up and froze. There she was, tall, impossibly graceful, with long ears that curved backward like the wings of some elegant galactic bird. Her eyes were sharp, intelligent, and disturbingly human in a way that made him feel simultaneously at ease and terrified. She wore a cloak that shimmered with shifting colors, like liquid starlight, and every time she moved, the light seemed to wink conspiratorially at the universe itself. "You seem occupied," she said, her voice smooth but carrying a hint of amusement. One eyebrow arched, though with her ears, it looked more like a subtle tilt of a crown. "That coffee cup is not going to negotiate itself." Ryland blinked, hands frozen around the rebellious cup. Right. Totally negotiating. I was, teaching it manners." The cup gurgled indignantly, as if to say it had graduated magna cum laude. "Impressive," she said, stepping closer. "Few humans handle sentient beverages without causing a minor diplomatic incident." She extended a hand, elegant, fingers tipped with faintly glowing rings that hummed with subtle energy. "I am Lysara." "Rylan," he said, grasping her hand like a man holding onto a branch while dangling over a gravity pit. Nice, starlight, rings, very, hummy." His brain had decided to short-circuit under the weight of her presence. Lysara's lips twitched into a smile. "Your humor is, primitive, but I find it charming. Come with me. I have a proposition." Rylan hesitated. Propositions from alien queens were usually either scams, traps, or invitations to involuntary space experiments. "Proposition?" he asked cautiously. "Like, buy one get one free crystals?" "No," she said, her voice smooth, but the amusement in it made his stomach do a small loop-de-loop. "I offer power. Real power. And with it, choices that will echo across the stars." Rylan blinked. "Choices, that echo? Like, loud choices? Should I invest in interstellar earmuffs?" "You are not funny," she said flatly, though the corner of her mouth betrayed a tiny grin. "But you are, observant." He followed her, gingerly stepping over a puddle of zero-gravity lubricant that made him feel like a newborn astronaut learning to crawl. They boarded her ship, a vessel that shimmered like a liquid comet, its hull shifting in patterns that made Rylan briefly doubt his own eyes. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of ozone and something sweet, like caramelized nebulae. Panels floated in midair, responding to thought alone, and holographic interfaces danced around him as if mocking his attempts to grasp them. "First," Lysara said, "you must understand what this power entails. It is not merely strength or speed, or the ability to make coffee cups perform interpretive dances." She paused, and Rylan staggered across the docking platform, tripping over a coil of anti-grav cable that seemed to have a personal vendetta against him. The bustling Zareth orbital port was alive with chaos. Hovercarts zoomed past in unpredictable trajectories, alien merchants shouted in languages that sounded like musical saws being gently tortured, and somewhere, a sentient drone insisted it was legally obligated to critique every passerby's fashion sense. Rylan, in his ill-fitting, slightly singed spacesuit, waved awkwardly at a passing quartet of levitating insects wearing monocles. "Not today, not today," he muttered, dodging a crate that threatened to convert him into an interstellar pancake. His latest scheme, a half-baked plan to sell a supposedly rare energy crystal, had already gone sideways. The crystal had turned out to be a cheap imitation, but the buyer, a three-headed negotiator named Ziltrax, had promised to overlook that fact if Rylan could entertain them with a decent joke. Which was difficult, considering that most of his jokes required at least one functioning gravity field, two coherent puns, and the absence of sentient coffee cups, which, unfortunately, were now multiplying around his feet. As he wrestled a particularly feisty cup that had tried to mug him for a cream refill, a shadow fell across the platform. He looked up and froze. There she was, tall, impossibly graceful, with long ears that curved backward like the wings of some elegant galactic bird. Her eyes were sharp, intelligent, and disturbingly human in a way that made him feel simultaneously at ease and terrified. She wore a cloak that shimmered with shifting colors, like liquid starlight, and every time she moved, the light seemed to wink conspiratorially at the universe itself. "You seem occupied," she said, her voice smooth but carrying a hint of amusement. One eyebrow arched, though with her ears, it looked more like a subtle tilt of a crown. "That coffee cup is not going to negotiate itself." Rylan blinked, hands frozen around the rebellious cup. Right. Totally negotiating. I was, teaching it manners." The cup gurgled indignantly, as if to say it had graduated magna cum laude. "Impressive," she said, stepping closer. "Few humans handle sentient beverages without causing a minor diplomatic incident." She extended a hand, elegant, fingers tipped with faintly glowing rings that hummed with subtle energy. "I am Lysara." "Rylan," he said, grasping her hand like a man holding onto a branch while dangling over a gravity pit. Nice, starlight, rings, very, hummy." His brain had decided to short-circuit under the weight of her presence. Lysara's lips twitched into a smile. "Your humor is primitive, but I find it charming. Come with me. I have a proposition." Rylan hesitated. Propositions from alien queens were usually either scams, traps, or invitations to involuntary space experiments. "Proposition?" he asked cautiously. "Like, buy one get one free crystals?" "No," she said, her voice smooth, but the amusement in it made his stomach do a small loop-de-loop. "I offer power. Real power. And with it, choices that will echo across the stars." Rylan blinked. "Choices, that echo. Like, loud choices. Should I invest in interstellar earmuffs?" "You are not funny," she said flatly, though the corner of her mouth betrayed a tiny grin. "But you are, observant." He followed her, gingerly stepping over a puddle of zero-gravity lubricant that made him feel like a newborn astronaut learning to crawl. They boarded her ship, a vessel that shimmered like a liquid comet, its hull shifting in patterns that made Rylan briefly doubt his own eyes. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of ozone and something sweet, like caramelized nebulae. Panels floated in midair, responding to thought alone, and holographic interfaces danced around him as if mocking his attempts to grasp them. "First," Lysara said, "you must understand what this power entails. It is not merely strength or speed, or the ability to make coffee cups perform interpretive dances." She paused, and Rylan, sensing a teachable moment, raised his hand. "Wait, that's a thing I can do." "Yes," she said, deadpan, "and yes, it is a thing you will probably misuse." Rylan grinned. "Good to know. Always wanted to make tap-dancing latte creatures." She did not respond immediately. Instead, she gestured to a sphere hovering midair, pulsing with blue energy. "This," she said, "is the beginning." A choice, a bond. Accept it, and the galaxy's secrets will be yours. Refuse, and life continues as before, probably messier than you can imagine. Ryland's mind raced. Secrets of the galaxy. Reality-bending energy. Tap-dancing coffee cups. He considered declining politely, but then he looked down at a sentient cup attempting a pirouette on his boot. He sighed. Well, why not? A subtle hum filled the room as Lasara extended her hand, and a tendril of light curled around Ryland's palm. It was warm, almost alive, and it tingled in a way that made him both thrilled and terrified. Very well, she said. But power is never free. You must understand that each gift comes with a cost. Ryland winced. Costs, fees, hidden taxes. I should have read the fine print. Can we negotiate? Lasara's eyes sparkled with quiet amusement. Some things can be negotiated. Some must be experienced. As the connection deepened, the ship pulsed, and Ryland felt knowledge, potential, and chaos flood into him simultaneously. Somewhere in the background, a coffee cup attempted a somersault and failed, splattering a holographic display with an almost conspiratorial sense of timing. Welcome to the beginning of your choices, Lasara said, stepping back. Now, let us see how you handle power and humor together. Ryland swallowed hard, glanced at the somersaulting cup, and muttered, well. At least it's never boring. The stars outside the viewport shifted, the ship's hull shimmering in response to some cosmic rhythm, and the adventure, entangled with danger, laughter, and the weight of choices, had begun. Ryland sat cross-legged on a floating platform in the center of Lasara's ship, trying to make sense of the surge of energy that had been transferred to him. Every thought felt amplified, every impulse tingled with potential, and somewhere in the back of his mind, a small voice, probably his own, kept reminding him that he had no idea what he was doing. So, he said, rubbing his temples, I can do everything. Or, like, some things. I mean, can I finally beat my cousin at holochess, or are we talking universe-level things here? Lasara's long ears twitched in amusement. You may manipulate matter, energy, and probability to a degree few beings ever will. Holochess victories, while achievable, will seem trivial in comparison. But yes, that is technically within your grasp. Ryland's eyes widened. Probability? You mean, I could? I don't know, make it rain chocolate on demand? Certainly, Lasara said. But the universe will notice. And chocolate rain in a port filled with anti-grav carts is hazardous. He pictured the chaos, a torrent of molten chocolate colliding with startled merchants and hovering droids, and laughed. Hazardous. That's accurate. She gestured to a floating control panel that projected a miniature model of a nearby star system. Your first lesson is subtlety. Power without restraint attracts attention, dangerous attention. Observe, influence, but tread carefully. Ryland leaned closer, squinting at the holograms. Subtlety, got it. Like trying to sneak out of a bar without paying the tab, right? Lasara's lips quirked. Exactly. But in this case, the bar is the galaxy, and the tab is, well, more complicated than credits. A sudden alarm blared. A chirping, electronic yowl that sounded suspiciously like a caffeinated cat being interrogated. Ryland spun around and saw a containment pod shaking violently. Inside was one of the ship's experimental creatures, a gelatinous, luminescent blob with 3 eyes and a penchant for telekinetic mischief. Oh no, he groaned. It's going to escape and, probably steal my shoes, right? Lasara raised an eyebrow, her long ears catching the flicker of the emergency lights. If by shoes you mean every object capable of independent thought in this quadrant, then yes. It has been unpredictable. Ryland leapt forward, attempting to use his new powers. The blob, sensing his intention, morphed into a cube, bounced off the walls, and performed a somersault that somehow knocked over a console. He winced. Okay, subtlety, maybe I need more practice. You are learning, Lysara said, with the faintest twitch of amusement in her sharp eyes. Even mistakes carry lessons. After several tense minutes of juggling telekinetic energy and negotiating with the blob, who, in a surprisingly polite moment, offered him a tiny glowing token as a peace gesture, Rylan finally contained it. Panting, he collapsed against a rail, looking like a human version of a tangled spacetime ribbon. You see, Lysara said, humor will help you endure the process. Do not underestimate it. I think the universe is laughing at me, he muttered, wiping sweat from his brow, which probably should not have been sweating in zero gravity. Lysara tilted her head, eyes glimmering. Perhaps. Or perhaps you are learning to laugh with it. Rylan attempted a weak joke. Well, if the universe is laughing with me, I hope it buys me dinner first. She said nothing, but her silent acknowledgement, an almost imperceptible nod, was enough. Over the next few hours, Lysara guided him through the fundamentals of controlling his power. He moved objects with thought, reshaped energy streams, and even projected small illusions to confuse a rowdy group of alien merchants they were observing from orbit. The ship, reacting to his presence, hummed and vibrated, as if alive, occasionally nudging him toward mistakes just to see how he would respond. Think of it as a game, Lysara said. But the stakes are not trivial. You may alter outcomes that ripple through countless worlds. Rylan frowned. Ripple, countless worlds, right. Like dropping a pebble in a pond and accidentally flooding a city? Got it. Subtle, careful pebble dropping. That analogy is, not entirely inaccurate, Lysara replied dryly, though her eyes danced with amusement. The lesson ended with an unexpected twist. A small, harmless-looking energy anomaly appeared outside the ship's viewport, pulsating in a mesmerizing rhythm. Observe it, Lysara instructed. It reacts to your presence. Try influencing it. Rylan focused, imagining a gentle wave guiding it, and to his surprise, the anomaly danced like a balloon caught in a cosmic breeze. He clapped in delight, only to notice that it had replicated itself into dozens more. Oh no, he groaned. I made, a cosmic balloon party. Exactly, Lysara said, suppressing a laugh. Now clean it up. What followed was a series of improvisations, each more ridiculous than the last, redirecting the anomalies, containing them in energy spheres, and accidentally creating a minor light show that rivaled a supernova. At one point, he even managed to trap one inside a virtual coffee cup, which promptly attempted to escape by forming tiny legs. By the time the chaos settled, Rylan was exhausted, exhilarated, and slightly sticky with unintentional cosmic energy residue. Lysara observed silently, the faintest smile on her lips. Progress is measured not in perfection, but in persistence, and, occasionally, the ability to laugh at yourself. Rylan collapsed onto a floating cushion, staring at the stars beyond the viewport. Persistence, and coffee cups. Got it. I am definitely going to need a nap after this. The ship pulsed, the anomaly dissipated, and somewhere deep inside, Rylan began to understand that power was intoxicating, unpredictable, and hilarious, all at once. Lysara stepped closer, her long ears catching the glint of starlight. You are learning faster than most. But remember, Rylan, the galaxy does not forgive foolishness, even if it laughs at it. Rylan blinked. Laughing, forgiven. I can live with that. And as the ship glided silently through the nebula-streaked void, Rylan felt the first stirring of something new, a blend of awe, mischief, and the unmistakable thrill of possibilities that spanned worlds. Rylan sat cross-legged on the observation deck, still trying to wrap his head around the fact that he could now bend matter and energy with little more than a thought. Lysara hovered nearby, her long ears twitching in silent amusement as she watched him fumble with a small floating orb of energy that refused to obey. Okay, Rylan muttered, if I just concentrate. No, wait, maybe if I think happy thoughts. Nope, that's glowing brighter than the star outside. Great, I'm turning the galaxy into a disco ball. Focus, Lasara said, voice calm but carrying a trace of dry humor. You cannot control everything by wishing or hoping. Discipline matters. I'm disciplined, he protested, though his hair was sticking out in odd angles, which made his statement only slightly believable. I always follow instructions, mostly, okay, sometimes. I swear I'm usually trustworthy. Mostly is not enough, she said, her eyes twinkling like distant stars. Try again. Rylan took a deep breath, attempted to ignore the small, giggling blob that had appeared next to him, apparently attracted by his emotional turbulence, and focused. The orb pulsed in response, then split into 3 smaller spheres, all floating obediently around him. He grinned. Hey, I did it. I think. Maybe. Okay, definitely. Lasara's lips curved into a smile. Progress. Now, we move to practical applications. You cannot remain in the ship's safety forever. The galaxy is unpredictable, full of hazards and amusing surprises. Amusing? Rylan echoed, glancing nervously at the small energy spheres. I like the sound of amusing. As long as it doesn't involve exploding anything, or coffee cups. Amusing in this context includes danger, Lasara said. Do not underestimate it. Their first mission took them to the orbit of Krothos 9, a planet known for unstable energy storms and diplomatic incidents involving levitating jellyfish that doubled as judges in local legal systems. Rylan had been tasked with mediating a dispute between 2 warring alien factions over the rights to a gravity mine. The ship's AI projected a holographic table with the 2 factions represented by floating symbols, one a pulsating green orb, the other a jagged purple crystal. You have to convince them to cooperate, Lasara said. Without harming anyone, and preferably without causing mass panic. Rylan swallowed. Right, no harm, no panic, easy peasy. He turned to the holograms. Listen, guys, maybe sharing is caring? Or, don't zap each other. I mean, interstellar fines are a thing, right? The green orb pulsed angrily. Do not patronize us, human. The purple crystal shimmered in response. We demand justice, or we, deploy the energy squid. Rylan blinked. Energy squid? That's a thing. Apparently, Lasara murmured, quietly suppressing a laugh. Thinking quickly, Rylan raised a hand and caused a small holographic display of a giant tap-dancing squid to appear, performing interpretive moves to a silent cosmic rhythm. The 2 factions paused, intrigued, then laughed. Or whatever passed for laughter among orb and crystal lifeforms. You are, strange, said the green orb finally. But effective. Rylan breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you. I practice my dance moves occasionally. The negotiation ended successfully, with both Rylan squinted. Subtle. That's a glowing ball of chaos floating in the void. Very subtle indeed. As they neared, the energy pulse expanded, revealing a fleet of rogue drones, their hulls patched together with scavenged starship parts, buzzing and weaving in aggressive formations. Rylan's first instinct was to laugh at the absurdity. The drones looked like a swarm of over-caffeinated mechanical bees wearing tiny pirate hats. They do not negotiate politely, Lasara said. You will need precision. And humor may help you survive. Humor. Okay, so, joke at the drones, distract them, then, cosmic tickle attack. Rylan suggested, as one of the drones buzzed past, narrowly missing a floating control panel. Do not try to tickle them, Lasara warned, though a faint smirk touched her lips. Rylan focused, extending his hands, and the energy within him responded. He directed it toward the drones, causing them to stagger slightly as if confused by invisible strings of cosmic spaghetti. One drone, unable to resist, began pirouetting midair, its metal hat spinning comically. Rylan chuckled. Yes. Take that, interstellar bees. Control, not chaos, Lasara reminded him, though her tone carried amusement. Rylan gritted his teeth. Right. Control. Chaos in check. I've got this. I think. He wove streams of energy, nudging drones into positions where they could be corralled without harm. Occasionally, one would bounce off another, sparks flying in ridiculous patterns, creating something that looked more like a circus act than a battle. By the time the swarm was contained in a temporary energy field, Ryland's suit was slightly singed, his hair had defied gravity in ways he did not think possible, and one drone was inexplicably spinning a tiny holographic top on its head. He wiped sweat from his brow. I think I did it. Indeed, Lasara said. But notice the effect of your power. Even controlled interventions create ripples. Rylan looked out at the nebula. Ripples. Like galactic dominoes. Exactly, she said. Some ripples are amusing. Others are dangerous. A sudden alarm blared. Rylan spun, spotting another anomaly forming near the edge of the nebula, a small black void twisting against the stars like a knot in reality. Lasara, that looks like a bad idea. It is a bad idea, she said. And yet, an opportunity to learn. Rylan groaned. Opportunity, right. Learning is fun. Especially when it involves, possible annihilation. He took a deep breath and extended his powers, attempting to stabilize the void. The swirling mass resisted, pulsing unpredictably. He experimented, sending minor waves of energy to guide it, accidentally creating several miniature wormholes that spat out a variety of harmless but very confused space creatures, glowing jellyfish, floating lizards, and one cat-like entity that hissed at him in perfect unison. Oh great, Rylan muttered. Intergalactic petting zoo. Just what I needed. Lasara's ears twitched as she watched. Your improvisation is effective. But your methods are reckless. Effective and reckless, Rylan agreed. 2 for the price of 1. After several attempts, the void finally stabilized, the miniature wormholes collapsed, and the floating creatures were safely guided back to their native regions. Rylan collapsed onto a deck railing, utterly drained but grinning. Well. I think we saved the day. Mostly. Lasara hovered beside him, eyes softening. You did. And in doing so, you began to understand the weight of your power. Rylan glanced at the stars streaming past the viewport. Weight, huh? Kinda heavy, but also, fun. And slightly ridiculous. Fun and ridiculousness will help you endure, Lasara said. But do not forget, consequences are never far behind. He groaned dramatically. Consequences, cosmic, galactic, possibly caffeinated consequences. Got it. Can we schedule a nap between cosmic crises? She allowed a faint smile. Soon. But for now, you are learning the most important lesson: power is exhilarating, unpredictable, and occasionally hilarious. And you must navigate it all with awareness and humor. Rylan leaned back, letting the strange rhythm of the ship and stars wash over him. Awareness, humor, got it. Also, maybe more coffee cups as allies. They seem trustworthy. The ship pulsed softly, carrying them further into the vast, unpredictable galaxy. Rylan's confidence grew, tempered by caution and punctuated by laughter. The universe was strange, dangerous, and absurdly funny, and somehow, he was right at the center of it. Rylan floated in the command chamber, staring at the holographic projection of the Galactic Council. The Council was an intimidating array of species, tentacled delegates, floating crystalline entities, and a particularly opinionated three-eyed alien who kept adjusting his monocle and glaring at Rylan like he had personally ruined the space-time continuum. Right, Rylan muttered, running a hand through his unruly hair, final mission. No pressure. Just, saving star systems, making peace, avoiding accidental universal collapse, and hopefully not embarrassing myself. Lysara hovered nearby, her long ears twitching with amusement. Do not underestimate the importance of composure. Humor has its place, but clarity and intention are vital now. Rylan tried to nod sagely, though his head tilted like a confused orbiting moon. Clarity and intention. Got it. Mostly. Okay, I think I can fake it until I make it. The council began to debate, and Rylan noticed that the dispute centered on a newly discovered energy source with unstable properties. Each faction wanted to claim it for themselves, promising prosperity, or in some cases, total annihilation of rivals. One particularly dramatic moment involved a floating gelatinous blob passionately pointing a pseudopod at an adjacent crystalline entity while emitting harmonic vibrations that almost cracked a nearby window. Rylan swallowed. Okay, step 1, don't panic. Step 2, maybe make a joke. Step 3, maybe, okay, definitely step 3 is use powers responsibly. He took a deep breath, extending his energy manipulation toward the chaotic council chamber. Small tendrils of controlled light weaved around the arguing delegates, nudging them into positions that allowed them to hear one another rather than yell over each other. He caused a miniature holographic display to appear, a literal depiction of what would happen if the energy source was misused, galactic fireworks, exploding moons, and one very annoyed alien cat floating across the projection in zero-gravity indignation. Laughter erupted. Even the most stubborn delegates paused to witness the absurdity of it. Rylan grinned, cautiously encouraged by their reactions. Lysara's long ears twitched. You are blending diplomacy with your abilities effectively. But remember, subtlety is key. Humor opens the mind, but you must guide them toward reason. Rylan nodded, focusing. He created a controlled energy sphere around the volatile resource, stabilizing it just enough to prevent immediate catastrophe. Using tiny pulses, he illustrated the potential benefits of shared governance and cooperative research. The council, while still eccentric and occasionally ridiculous, began to nod and murmur agreements. Even the opinionated three-eyed alien lowered his monocle, signaling reluctant approval. Step 4. Complete mission without humiliating self too badly, Rylan muttered under his breath. Minutes later, the council reached consensus. The energy source would be managed collectively, with safety protocols enforced and equitable access granted. Rylan allowed himself a small cheer. One hand raised in victory, the other brushing stray strands of hair from his face. Impressive, Lysara said, her voice carrying a faint note of pride. You have guided them without coercion or domination. You have grown. Rylan leaned back, floating lazily. Grown, huh? I feel taller. Or maybe it's just all the adrenaline. And cosmic coffee cups. She raised an eyebrow. Cosmic coffee cups. One of the delegates brought one, he explained. It tried to lecture me on ethics mid-negotiation. Very assertive little cup. Lysara's lips twitched, almost a full smile. You have learned to balance power with wisdom, and humor with responsibility. That is no small feat. Rylan exhaled, allowing the weight of the accomplishment to sink in. He remembered the first days aboard her ship, fumbles with energy orbs, mischievous blobs, nearly catastrophic improvisations, and marveled at how far he had come. He could control his abilities now, anticipate consequences, and, importantly, laugh at the absurdity of interstellar chaos while still acting responsibly. And, what about the consequences? Rylan asked, the thought lingering like a stubborn comet. They remain, Lysara said. But you have learned to navigate them. Power always carries cost, but you have chosen wisely, with humor and clarity. That is what separates a reckless fool from a capable guardian. Rylan nodded. Guardian. I like the sound of that. Slightly heroic, definitely coffee-influenced, but I'll take it. The ship shifted course, gliding away from the council chamber and toward open space. Stars streamed past the viewport, painting the void with streaks of silver and gold. Rylan felt a sense of completion, not just from the mission, but from the journey itself, the mistakes, the laughter, the triumphs, and the lessons. He was no longer just a hapless human floundering in the galaxy. He was someone who had faced temptation, wielded power, and chosen to act with care and insight. "Where to now?" he asked, glancing at Lysara. "Forward," she said, eyes gleaming with quiet pride. "There is always more to learn, more to explore. But for now, you have grown. You have made choices that echo across the stars." Rylan smiled, letting the hum of the ship carry him, feeling the weight and wonder of the galaxy in his hands. "Forward, huh? Sounds good. Maybe we can find a nice nebula with snacks along the way. Preferably ones that don't try to kill me." Lysara allowed herself a full smile this time, long ears brushing the air. "Very well. Forward, with humor. Forward, with wisdom. Forward, with courage." Rylan floated toward the deck, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment and wonder. The galaxy stretched endlessly before him, full of danger, absurdity, and incredible beauty. And he was ready for all of it. Ready to wield his powers responsibly, laugh when appropriate, and face whatever challenges lay ahead. Because he had changed. He had grown. And for the first time, Rylan understood what it truly meant to carry power, and to live with the choices it demanded.